I'm doing a video on how to detect bullshit, or perhaps another way to put it is how to apply Occam's razor. And Occam's razor is, the simplest explanation is probably the truth. Or another way to look at it is don't add unnecessary elements. Now the Santa Claus myth has just a couple of main points. First, Santa lives in the North Pole with his elves. Santa watches all the children and knows who's been good or bad. Santa's elves build all the toys for the kids in the world. And on December 25th, Santa loads up his sleigh, pulled by 8 or 9 reindeer, flies throughout the world visiting every home, and goes down the chimney, places presents at the tree, eats some milk and cookies, then goes back up the chimney to the next home. There are some problems with this. Now, if you're going to go by the idea that the Santa myth is true, there's a few questions that you need to answer. There's ethical questions and there are physical questions. Let's start with the physical questions, because they're kind of fun. There are apparently about 6.8 or 6.68 billion people in the world. Now, if we assume that every household has approximately 4 people, that means we're dealing with about 1.6 billion homes. The day has 24 hours. That breaks down to 86,400 seconds per day. If Santa is going to visit 1.6 billion homes in 86,400 seconds, then that means he has to visit approximately 20,000 houses per second. So he has 1/20,000th of a second to go from one Christmas tree up the chimney, across the other house, down the chimney, and then plant the next present. That's not a lot of time. So if you take the view that Santa is real, you have to answer these moral and these ethical or these physical and these ethical problems. And there's no answer in the myth, so you just have to make something up. So you have to come up with some kind of off-the-cuff solution for what these problems are. But if I tell you the truth, that there is no Santa, that it's just the kids' parents, then suddenly everything makes sense. We don't have to worry about all the physical problems of Santa visiting all the houses. We don't have to worry about the weight of the sled or how reindeers fly or anything like that, or trademark violation, patent violation. The parents are just buying presents for the kids, which also explains why rich parents, or rather rich kids, get treated well by Santa and poor kids do not. I mean, the fact that Santa is in fact the parents answers all the problems. If you try and go with Santa is real, then suddenly you've got all these unanswerable questions. The fact that you have unanswerable questions, if you try and make up answers for them that leads to other unanswerable questions, tells you that it's bullshit. Whereas the parents answers everything. You come up with new questions, parents answers everything. So the truth answers everything. Bullshit answers nothing and creates more problems. Now think about the kinds of crazy logical dancing you'd have to do to explain Santa to a kid who's asking these questions. Think about the logical tap dancing you're doing and compare that to the logical tap dancing that Christian apologists have to do for God. Because if you look around the world, there's a lot of stuff God has to answer for. Look at Africa and the tragedies that are going in all the different countries in Africa, the droughts, all the disease, all the problems. Look at the Catholic pedophile thing. There's just endless problems that God has to be aware of and is just letting all this stuff happen, and you have to ask why, and they got no answer for it. There's nothing in the Bible that explains it. There's all kinds of questions that there is no answer for in the Bible, and that any Christian who wants to excuse God has to make a bunch of shit up. But if you look at it as though there is no God, well, then suddenly everything is answered. You know, why do good people suffer? Because there's no God. So good people will be dealt the justice of whatever area that they're in. And if they're in an area that's corrupt, then they'll have corrupt justice. And that's it. You know, what is God's purpose in making a young child suffer and die young? Who knows? There is no good reason for that. That's the death of an innocent that could easily be overcome by an omnipotent entity. So if God exists, you'd have to come up with a reason for why, the justification for the death of an innocent kid. God doesn't exist? No problem. So all of the questions, all of the problems, go to any of these websites that talk about problems that Christians must answer, and they'll come with all kinds of very convoluted and twisted and ridiculous, in many cases, explanations for why God does things the way they do, or why things happen the way they do, when in fact the simple answer is there is no God, so there is no problem. If you find that you're having to make up crazy answers, and each of these crazy answers is leading to another crazy answer, which leads to another crazy answer, and endless questions that just don't make any sense, then you know you're on the track of bullshit and there's probably a better answer. So apply Occam's razor, cut away the unnecessary crap, and get to the truth.